Hey everyone, welcome for a new video on what weapons you should use during an apocalypse. This will cover all types of weapons, like blunt, sharp, and ranged weapons. All of those will be told in separate orders. We will look at what would be the most deadly, fragile, and the ones who would be the most trustworthy to use. This is also going to explain availability of the resources for the ranged ones. Now, let's look over it. And number 1, blunt weapons. Blunt weapons are known everywhere. You even probably use them yourself. For those who doesn't know, this is the proper definition. Blunt weapons are primarily melee weapons designed to use blunt trauma to inflict damage on their targets. Most are club-like and rely on the user's strength and the mass of the weapon to create blunt force. This could include baseball bats and any other weapons that aren't sharp and you put someone into a coma with. These kinds of weapons are made to hit an object or a person and are often made to be minimally sturdy. The force required to break a skull was announced by the Journal of Neurosurgery to be 235 kilos, 551.156 pounds for those who use this as unit, and 2,300 newtons of force. A baseball bat, wielded by an average high school or college student, would be around 65 to 80 miles per hour, or 810 kilometers per hour. The force of this weapon is of 3,400 newtons, corresponding to 760 pounds, so breaking a human skull wouldn't be hard at all, having a strength over 200 pounds over bones limit. Breaking the skull, the brain of many enemies wouldn't stand no chance. I will not cover all of the weapons in a certain type, only the most common or logical ones. The only bad side of blunts is that some of them are weaker, like a cricket bat, or another one with weaker materials. A crowbar could also be considered blunt. A blunt weapon is basically priceless to blow up a zombo's head, but range of resistance depends a lot of which weapon is used. Blunt weapons were the most rated, with 25% of it getting votes for the best weapons. Number 2. Sharp or cold steel weapons. Weapons like swords and knives have a pretty good utility in people's everyday lives. But when this word goes down to ashes, is it going to be reliable? The answer? Maybe. Let's see why. If we start by talking about the obvious, we'll talk about knives. First of all, it's obvious that the range of this weapon is extremely bad. It is a short weapon, which makes it a normal item to use if you're surrounded or have a low amount of free moves. Nonetheless, it's a very good emergency weapon as well. As tactical, a knife can be sharpened very finely so it cuts through skin very easily, while it's extremely easy to hide in the boot under the layers of clothing, so you can get it out when the time comes. It is also a tactical weapon, as I said sooner, as it can be used to cut many equipment or items, such as ropes, vines, wood, and the list goes on. So obviously, the practicality is going to be useful, and you should not skip one of those in your arsenal. Now, let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things. Let's talk about swords. So, these are obviously long knives, but with a couple of differences, such as handguard, a pommel, a hilt, and a fuller. A fuller has got rumors spreading that it is to let the blood of the enemies flow, which is where it got the name blood gutter. But it has nothing to do with blood. It's actually to lighten the sword, since the blade is made so heavy. I can still watch Trash's video as a subject, but put English subs on it because it's French. I love my primary language. 17% of people thought it was a great idea to have an handy sword or knife, even a dagger instead of another weapon. And now, on number 3, long-ranged weapons that consume bullets. So, these ranging from a normal pistol, a 9mm, to more advanced weapons like the AK-47 or the Scar Hell, to mention only the ones which are known to most to the public, are very deadly in a human versus human situation, as well as very helpful to take out zombies, in a herd or alone. The bigger the bullet, the more the damage. It also depends on what kind of weapon is used, which can still be influenced by different stocks or other customizable parts. At the user's most comfortable mix. Silences, which is a name made up for the suppressor, impacts the sound and aim for the weapon. A weapon which would be around 135 Hz would become around 100 or 110 Hz. It does not allow a stealth advance like in video games, but it is already a good start to reducing the damage your hear will have to take in. The distance in which a gun can reach depends highly on the type. I would put all of them to a more generalized category and say that if you have the right stuff, you can shoot very far. One of the problems of using guns and bullet-consuming weapon is that once you fire a bullet, you cannot reuse it. Bullets can be very scarce during an apocalypse, depending on how much it was used, or depending on the level of scavenging. Bullets are very precious. It also causes a lot of sound, even with the suppressor on, so it cannot be used to infiltrate or to not attract unwanted attention to your position. The gun can also jam when you want to use it, preventing its use until on blocks, which can be very shockingly unpredictable in some given situations. It can also be used as a blunt weapon to hit someone. So the summary is this. Use it as an emergency and know how to use it, whilst being careful of bullet consumption. 40% of the people are asked thinks that this is the best option in an apocalypse. And number 4, use of fire and other incendiary equipment. Fire is an element which is basically infinite, so it can be useful, right? Yeah. Compared to popular knowledge, this would be very helpful. Here's why. Fire can bring any living organism made out of flesh to ashes. This can happen if you ignite it with a source of flame, electricity, considerable amount obviously, or even sparks. What will happen is that the tissue in the body will become weaker and burnt, preventing movement and on living organism, preventing proper breathing, proper body functions, while giving a tremendous amount of pain to the victim. On a dead organism and tissue, even if the time that the event will take will be longer, their limbs would be slowly torn apart until overuse, rendering their limbs useless. The bones can burn down if the heat is significant enough. Doing this will highly reduce the chance of you being chased by too much entities. Now, let's see how fast a spark or our electricity can cause fire. When something is shocked, the heat is considerably elevated in the object, causing the tissues to also heat up. Heating up, the tissue will slowly start themselves to burn, and can eventually cause a flame to burst. The follow-up of the event is that, as you should know, the fire will start propagating into a bigger form, making it not a flame, but multiple ones. A spark is an incandescent particle. Sparks may be produced by pyrotechnics, by metalworking, or as byproducts of fire, especially when burning wood. It being incandescent, it contains heat, and since it is so concentrated, the weakest parts of the body could light up, such as hair, the skin, or the combustibles, causing a fire propagation like the electricity. Obviously, it sounds great. It sounds like an infinite resource, very deadly, because it is, but even the best ones have faults. Fire can be put down with water or by wind itself. It can also be weakened or lit off by an oxygen failure, which will stop the fire completely. Fire is itself dangerous for your own buildings or stuff in tanks, so be careful. 3% of the people interrogated thought it was the best idea, but keep in mind electricity was included, so all of the wires and everything were as well.
What's up, Goldy here? I'm gonna talk about bows and crossbows. So those use arrows that can be easily made out of stones and sticks. Bows are pretty much easier to make than crossbows, but the crossbows are much faster and does more damage than the other. You can use the arrow as a melee weapon for close combat, while you can also modify the arrows to make more damage, such as adding nails or glass shards. Or you can make fire arrows. You can change the arrowhead by adding more spikes. You can find them in a hunting shop. It can slow down zombies pretty easily. These weapons can be made out of wood and metal, but the classical and the literature version, it is primarily made out of wood. You should aim for the eyes for better and deadly results. Arrowheads can be made out of steel, iron, flint, rock, or anything that can turn into a pointy head. However, it's going to inflict the quality of the weapon. Normally is 25 to 50 kilograms. The speed can go 50 kilometers an hour, and for the details, many types of arrowheads are available. For the percentage of vote for this weapon was 6 reusable, 21%.
I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you did. What weapon would you have used? And which one would you use now? Tell me in the comments. It was Deathzac, and I'll see you in the next video.